Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Today we're going to be going over the topic of ratios. The first question says, a volunteering team consists of 480 volunteers. The ratio of men to women in this volunteering team is 7 to 5. How many volunteers are men? The first thing we're going to do is write down the ratio which is given to us. In this case, we have 7 men to 5 women. The next step is to find the factor. To do that, we're going to take the total number of men and women in the whole volunteering team, which is 480. Then we're going to add the number of men and women to represent one group of men and women, which is 12. When you divide these numbers, it gives you the total number of groups we have of men and women. A good way to visualize this is if we have 40 different tables, and each table a good way to visualize this is if we have 40 tables, and each table consists of 7 men and 5 women. This is why we wrote down the number 12. But now we have the factor, which is 40, and to find the real number of men and women in the whole volunteering group, we're going to take 40, which is a factor, and multiply it by 7, which is the number of men represented in the ratio. When you multiply these two numbers, you're going to get 280, representing the total number of men in the total of the 480 volunteers. The same thing goes with women. Even though he didn't ask for it in the question, we're going to write it down so we can prove that the total number is 480. We have the factor, which is 40, multiplied by 5, which gives us 200. So in this case, we know that 40 tables multiplied by 5, which is the number of women in each table, gives us 200 women. And 40 tables multiplied by the number of men in each table gives us 280 men. Now we're going to look at another question, which states that a bookstore makes an offer where you buy 6 books and receive 4 pens for free. Ahmed has a total of 60 books and pens. How many books did Ahmed buy? Okay. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the previous question, which is write down the ratio we have of books to pens, which is given to us here as 6 books to 4 pens. Again, we're going to have to find the factor, which is in this case the total number of books and pens that Ahmed bought, which is 60. And then we're going to add 6 books and 4 pens to represent the groups of books and pens that Ahmed bought. This, when you divide 60 by 10, you're going to get 6. Now that we have the factor, we can find the real number of books, which is 6, the factor, multiplied by 6, which is the number of books in each group, which gives us a total of 36 books. And the same thing goes with the pens. We have 6, which is a factor, multiplied by 4, which is the number of pens in each group. Okay, this question is a little bit different, but we're going to go through it together. A box has 80 apples. Between every 10 apples, there are 8 good ones. How many bad apples are there? What is given to us here is the number of good apples and the total number of apples. We still do not know the number of bad apples. But it is implied in the question that if we have a total of 10 apples and 8 ones are good, then we will have, of course, 2 bad apples out of the total 10. Okay. Now that we know that the ratio of good apples to bad apples is 8 to 2, we can find a factor. So to do that, we're going to take the total number of apples in the box, which is 80, and then we're going to add our ratio, which is 8 plus 2, which gives us 10, which represents the number of apples in each group. Now that we have our factor, which is 8, we can find the good ones and the bad ones. The total real number of good apples is 8, which is a factor, multiplied by 8, which is the number of good apples in each group, which is equivalent to 64. And to find out the number of bad apples, we're going to take 8 multiplied by 2, which is what we know as the bad apples of each group, which gives us a total of 16 bad apples in the whole box. A wire is 40 meters long. This wire is divided into 2 sections. One section is 2/3 of the other section. How long is the longest of the 2 sections? What is given to us here is the ratio of length of the long piece and the short piece. It is not written in numbers, however, it is written as a ratio in words. A good way to visualize this is through taking the ratio that is given to us, which is what we know as 2/3. And as we can see here, we have a total of 3 in the denominator, so we're gonna draw 3 circles. And in the numerator we have 2. I'm gonna mark 2 circles and write down 2 squares. Now we can see that the total